Welcome back to Small Talk with RainKraft. How have you been? We disappeared for a bit into the maze of Clubhouse, but we're back. And I think what's really been on our mind, listening to a lot of people across Clubhouse and podcasts and various interviews, is how big a role communication, really good communication, plays in every little thing and how we really interpret it and understand it and use it to our advantage. So that's what we thought we'd talk about today. I'm Subha.
And I'm Hasita, and welcome to another episode of Small Talk with RainKraft. Speaking of communication, asking the right questions seems to be something that a lot of us would like to do. I mean, we've all had those conversations where someone's asked us just the question that's got us thinking, and that makes us wonder, right? How do we start asking those questions? How do we make every conversation we have so much more enriching?
Yeah, totally agree. And I think that's the really unexplored part of communication. In a lot of the work, even that we've done in the past, communication has been about how do you speak, how do you carry yourself, how do you project yourself, how do you say what you want to say. But a lot of that really goes to responding to someone else many times. We we forget an important tool that we hold in terms of asking the right questions and really letting yourself explore that opportunity or that situation which has presented itself to you. I know you've been hooked to watching Oprah interview the royals, and I know that the biggest takeaway was really the beauty of her questions, isn't it?
That is true. Yes, I have been hooked to that interview, mainly also because it's just the drama in all of our lives that's playing out on a much larger scale and on a much larger stage. But what really struck me about that, almost to our conversation, was Oprah is not afraid to ask the tough questions, the questions that get the responses that I think we all probably tune into these things to hear. So that really stayed with me. The fact that you can sit across a celebrity uh, and ask them exactly what happened in their lives is something that, yeah, it was quite interesting.
I'm a self-confessed fan of podcasts which are in the interview format. So I enjoy the Tim Ferriss and Dax Shepard kind of shows where they are just exploring topics with people who are really high performers in their field. Many of these folks, end of the day, are not household names. They're not overly famous, but they are really, really good at what they do. And these guys are trying to extract from them what makes them tick.
I think asking questions really opens up, or rather, it puts you in a space of listening, right? Like the very act of asking a question is being willing to say, I'm listening and I'm here for your answer. And of course, now that we both have masterclass subscriptions and we want to make the most of them uh, in this year, Chris Voss is someone I had watched his TED talk a very long time ago on, and he is a hostage negotiator, right? He talks to people who are effectively terrorists. And he says the act of getting the thing that you want is essentially an act of listening. It's an act of sitting down and demonstrating empathy in a situation where probably empathy is hard to come by, but being willing to have that open mind to understand where the other party is coming from before really putting forth what you want out of them. So, yeah, I've been enjoying his masterclass quite a bit actually. I thought I was in it for the baking videos.
No, that's true. Like negotiation itself is a conversation, is a type of communication where we tend to go in just to come out as a winner or just to get what we want, and hence we are maybe sometimes too eager to share or to say a lot of things which will justify what we're asking for, right? So if I think back to my work um, days and opportunities where I was actually in a negotiation, but I didn't probably even acknowledge that. So if I'm being offered a new project or a new role, the reaction is to respond, to justify why I want it or why I think I can do it, and why it should come to me, rather than saying, hey, let's take a little time to just explore this. Let's negotiate in a very simple sense to say, what is this offer? What is this opportunity really? What are some of the questions I can ask to understand, hey, what will I get out of this? What will the organization get out of this? What will it take for me to be successful in this? And how are you going to measure that? And I think just asking those questions would have revealed a lot more to me. Probably things that I learned the hard way by jumping into it and getting it done. But there's a lot of merit in asking these questions upfront and throughout the engagement.
So true, so true. In fact, I look back at some of maybe the projects that we've taken up over a long period of time, not necessarily more recently. And a lot of times, if there's been a disappointment for either party, then that's probably come from the fact that the expectations were not really set in the beginning. And for me personally, and maybe this is true of a lot of us, I always thought asking questions means admitting that I don't know. So I just wanted to be the person in the room who was hired for knowing. And therefore, I just thought it's easier. I am supposed to know these things. I'm not supposed to have to ask questions in order to know these things. But after, yeah, many instances of realizing that I may have stepped into something that I didn't quite understand, I'm seeing the value in setting those expectations correct in the beginning. And I think asking questions is the right way to go about it, because a lot of times many of us come into a room assuming that the other person has enough context about what we're going to talk about or what we are expecting of them. But that's not always necessarily true. And particularly today, when we don't really get so many opportunities to interact with each other, not knowing what the goal is that you're working towards can sometimes actually cause a lot of distress. So, any new opportunity, perhaps for me now at least, if I look at the future, I think I would definitely start asking a lot more questions in terms of what is the expectation from me, and how do we measure that expectation, like how do we know that we've hit that outcome, right?
It's so true, Asita. And what you just said made me think about how even as a as an individual, I behave differently in different circumstances. As a coach, I'm trained to ask questions, so I'm so comfortable in that space, listening and asking questions and probing and letting things kind of just unravel and let the other person open up. But the same me when I am having a discussion with a client who's wants some content written and on a project, I tend to respond more quickly, and I tend to not take that time to say, hey, you're saying it's urgent, you want it on Wednesday. My reaction is to say, hey, can I do it on Wednesday? Can I not? Should I say yes or no? Rather than saying, hey, why do you want it on Wednesday? Who's the audience? And if there is feedback from the Wednesday submission, how much time am I going to get to rework? What is the end objective? Even something like, why are we in a hurry?
Yeah, so true.
Right? And I've seen like recently that when I do this, the answers really do surprise you. I've had a client who was insistent that it has to get done by a Friday evening. And when I asked these questions, they said, hey, you're right. This is important. So just take a little more time and come back by Tuesday or Wednesday if you need to. But let's get it closer to the final draft as much
Yeah.
as we can, right? So it really does open up the conversation and even lets the other person think about what they are asking for and what situation or position they're putting you in. So it's really been an eye opener for me of late, saying, hey, I can ask these questions and, like you said, not feel like the idiot in the room in a way, or how could you not know this, or why are you even asking this, right?
So true, so true. I'm just thinking, asking doesn't probably come naturally to many of us, and maybe that's an extrapolation. At least it doesn't come too naturally to me. uh, is there some framework you have in mind? You do work as a coach, and like you said, that's a lot of listening, asking the right questions. So do you have a framework in terms of how we could approach that process in general? I know it begins with mindfulness, so from that space, what are certain things that someone could do to ask better questions?
Yeah, no, that's important. And I think I would look at it as firstly, listen, right? Really give the person the time and space to say what they need to, because in the modes of communication that we use today, whether it's email or a text or WhatsApp message or even a call, we tend to interrupt each other a lot because we're just in that hurry to respond or to make it known that I'm here and I'm responding, so we tend to respond. So I think just listen, give the person the time to say what they want to say and express what they want to, and then take the time to ask. Not, simple questions which will give you a yes or no answer. How can I shift it away from the binary so that I get new information? I'm not only reconfirming what I already know, but I'm able to ask questions that give me new information that takes the engagement forward, that moves it into a new space where maybe I know the context more, I know the need more, I understand better, I have a better picture of what success would look like or what outcome needs to be reached, right? So ask those open ended questions and then respond,
Yeah.
right? With all of this context and with all of this input, then respond to what they are asking of you or what the situation is presenting. So I think listen, ask, and respond is all I would say, giving time and energy to each stage.
So true about what you said about time. I was just thinking, because most communication media today, a WhatsApp or even an Instagram DM, these are all so in the moment, right? Like I think I certainly feel that pressure to respond to a WhatsApp message as soon as it comes in. But what if we just stopped? What if we took this context away and said, you know what, I need time to think about this. I will get back to you on this tomorrow. Or can we discuss this later in the evening today? As opposed to just maybe sharing whatever is top of mind, letting the questions ferment a little bit and letting the answers kind of digest as well, and then to respond. So, really, spacing it out seems like a good idea.
Yeah. So I think that's something I know both of us are trying to do better at or do more of. So I hope you guys will also give it a shot. Listen to us in this podcast, and also just listen more in general,
Listen in general.
and then
Like,
ask.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, ask, and then respond. The time to respond is still there, it's still available, it's still there for you, but do the listening and asking first if you can.
That's it from us today, guys. We'd love to know what you've taken away from this. And if you've implemented some of this and it's working for you, then that's something that would definitely make us very happy to hear. This is Small Talk with RainKraft signing off, and see you next time.
Bye guys, see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Small Talk with RainKraft. We'd love to hear from you too. Drop us a voice note at speakpipe.com/raincraft. That's speakpipe.com/raincraft. We'd love to hear your stories, feedback, and topic requests. Small Talk is now available across a whole range of podcast platforms. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, Castbox, Anchor, and so many more. Do visit our website for direct links. Bye.